This bottom-up literacy instruction strategy is working with consonant names and sounds. This whole project with these charts came out of a research project I did with my colleagues Kathy Santubietra-Waddell and Connie Davis when we all worked in the Northern Colorado Professional Development Resource Center. We read these two books, probably now familiar, Betsy Parrish, and then English L2 Reading, Getting to the Bottom by Barbara Birch. Out of this research project, we created a presentation for COTESOL and then eventually an independent study course for adult educators working with ESL students in Colorado. These are the three textbooks we looked at. Kathy looked at Taking Off Beginning, Connie looked at All Star 1, and I looked at Standout Basic. These are all books designed for ESL Adult Level 1 English. So we're looking at consonant names. What we did was to each take a unit and then find a common consonant that came up frequently in that particular unit. And then we used this chart of strategies, which is in D2L for you, and developed lessons, activities, to work with the bottom processor, auditory perception, moving up into the higher processing of writing and reading in meaningful context. These are the skills, these are competencies that you might see listed with a CASAS test or maybe even a TABE test. And these are the activities that you can develop using your own textbook, what you already have. Kathy discovered in her food unit a lot of words that began with the letter B, and she used computer clip art to create this simple listen for the sound of B and point to the word. Notice that I'm not saying listen for B, because that's not what they hear, right? They hear B. But if I say B, that's a sound out of context. So listen for the sound of B and point. So if she said bread, the student would point to the bread. If she said breakfast, they would point to the breakfast. Also on her little activity sheet, when the students had finished that practice, they had the opportunity to think of another word that also begins with the letter B that is meaningful for them. And in this case, it was the word baby. You can use same different cards or yes, no cards that the students create. Index cards are great for this too. Here, the students simply write yes or same in one box and no or different in the other box and cut them out and hold up the card to reflect their answer. You saw this demonstrated in class last week. It's a form of task-based listening. So the teacher is going to say, this was from my book, by the way. So I was focusing on words that began with the letter N. And I want them to listen for N at the beginning of words. So if I said clean, do you hear the sound of N at the beginning? Hopefully they would hold up the no card because clean is at the end of the word. You can use same different. For example, 9 and fine. Are they same or different? Now, nice, mice, mine, 9, next, and simply have students hold up the cards. For visual letter recognition, Kathy created this on her computer where the students are going to circle the letter B, both in uppercase and lowercase. And notice what she's done here. Notice that she has mixed up the font. Why? Because students are going to be encountering different fonts wherever they go. If they pick up a magazine or a newspaper, that B is going to look very different from the B that I write on the board as a teacher. So you want to make this as realistic as possible. Her second activity has them underlining the letter B in all these different sentences. I need bananas. They're not creating the sentence and they're not reading the sentence. They are listening and they're going to underline the letter B. If they see the letter B, they're going to underline it. Connie created this one. She simply copied some of the graphics out of her textbook and then created a matching sheet. Now keep in mind that copyright law says you can legally copy 10% of a textbook. So if you're only taking like 3 or 4 pictures out of a single unit, that's not going to come close to 10%. So you're not going to void a copyright law by doing something as simple as this. And then that was her only technology, was a copier. And then she created this matching activity where they can link the picture and the word to the word by matching. And then they can point to the picture, say it, point to the word, and say it. I took the three of the N words that I found in the standout basic shopping unit were the word nickel, the word number, and the word name. And I created just a simple circle the picture activity for the students to identify something that matches that word. I used a computer. I used, the coins were all clip art from the US Mint. You can get great clip art of coins from them. Here's a reading and writing in meaningful context activity that Connie created simply with pen and paper. Write H on the line and read the words. Now we're putting H at the beginning of these words. We're going to focus on that H sound at the beginning of words. So have, hand, hurt, hat, headache, and head. And all of this vocabulary came out of the unit on health. So this was not vocabulary that she pulled out of the hat. I created this letter practice. I was teaching level 2, and sometimes I would find students who really needed to get practice on how to form the letters. And I gave them an X starting point on where to start with their letters. So for capital M, I gave them a place to start, and for lowercase n, I gave them a place to start. To first trace the letters and then write the letters on the line, both the uppercase and the lowercase letter. Then taking that same consonant N and putting it into meaningful context. This is all vocabulary out of the unit, and this activity is called disappearing letters. The student is going to spell the word nickel and say the word nickel. N-I-C-K-E-L, nickel. The next line, the student is going to write in the missing letter, and then again, spell the word, say the word. And continuing doing that until the very last line where the student is going to spell and write the entire word and read the word. So anytime you have a student write something, they should also read it. Keep it real. You want to keep this in real life context. So if you're pulling vocabulary out of your unit, it probably is already in a real life context. Use different types of practice to move students up from the lower processing strategies to the higher processing strategies. Lots of repetition and recycle. That means don't let this be a one-off practice. Bring these words back into units and subsequent units when you can.